Hello, everybody. This is Amanda Gilks here. Today, you are going to learn how to love yourself wealthy. How to love yourself wealthy, and we are so blessed to be joined by Eva Charlotte to have this conversation today. Eva is an acclaimed facilitator of transformation. She has worked more than 25 years in the field of transformation, working with individuals, groups, and corporations all over the world. She, as you'll see as we're talking, she has a way about her where she allows herself to just allow existence to flow through her. And she has so much wisdom from her ability to do that. And we're going to be talking about a lot of really interesting and eye-opening topics today. So welcome, Eva. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It is. I'm so excited. I'm like a little giddy child. As I said before we started to record, and this is one of my favorite topics because I think there's just so much room for growth and transformation in our regular physical world lives just by understanding some of the things you're going to teach us today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just to kind of like jump in, I think a lot of people might be surprised to learn that their financial situation is very tied to their connection to self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit to us?
Oh gosh, you go for the big one.
Yes, let's jump in.
Oh gosh. Pretty much the world can be thought of as a mirror that we're looking into. We're all energetic beings and everything vibrates, and at that level there's not really a separation. We might look like separate beings, and as physical beings we are, but as energetic beings we're not. And everything impacts everything. So whatever I'm holding as my truth, as my beliefs, as the story of myself and the world, holds a certain vibration. And vibration tends to attract like. So if I'm vibrating at a very agitated vibration, energy, emotion, that's what comes out to me, and that's what will be reflected back to me naturally. It's just how energies work. Another way of saying it is if I am in a situation and that situation somehow makes me feel a little cautious or scared, the natural tendency is to close, retract, pull back, energetically at least. Mm-hmm. And then there's nothing coming out of me. I'm pulling back, which means the world will pull back, because that's what I'm putting out there. Like attracts like energetically. So it's a dance. And by becoming more aware of where I am with myself and making a conscious choice, not just responding automatically to this event is making me feel a little cautious. Yes, it does, because I have a past that tells me this particular situation is dangerous. It was in the past. But with awareness, when this feeling of cautiousness comes up in me, I can say, okay, I'm feeling cautious here. Is there danger? Is there really danger around? Not based on my past, but based on now, here and now, in this moment. With awareness, I can look at it that way and make a conscious choice. No, there is no need for me to be afraid or cautious. And then my body relaxes and I can move forward.
Mm-hmm. So I know for me, I focused outward a lot when I was learning how to create abundance and manifest things that I wanted in my life. And I was so focused externally, and I thought, oh, I just need to like learn about the law of attraction. I need to read all these books. I need to have the right mentors and align myself, in the physical world. But I didn't look to myself. I didn't look to myself as a part of the puzzle of, am I going to allow myself to receive everything I'm working to create? So I was like amazing at creating all these other things, but then when they would start to come to me, I had this subconscious thing going on where I was depriving myself. I didn't allow anything successful to actually make it all the way in. So yeah, it's kind of an important piece of the puzzle.
That's one of my favorite pieces, the one you're talking about. Most people in the world live from outside in. And what I mean with that is that we tend to set up our lives in a way that makes us feel a specific way. So we want to have a certain amount of money because that makes us feel safe or powerful or acknowledged, or have a particular job because that gives us status, or relationships, or whatever it is. But all these outside relationships, people, objects, events are put in place by us to the best of our ability to make us feel a certain way. It's the only driving force. We do all of this because we want to feel a certain way. The body wants to feel safe. The emotions strive for happiness. The mind wants to understand. That's the physical driving force for all of us. And with awareness, you can learn to live inside out instead, where there's a part of you that's untouched by all of that, a part of you that's always centered and calm and happy and even blissful. And by being able to tap into that, you can choose how you feel. It doesn't really matter what's going on out there. You can choose it from inside, so you can feel abundant, totally abundant, because you are. In that energetic aspect, you are already abundant and wealthy. And by feeling that way, you will naturally create and attract abundance, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much less, it requires so much less pushing, energetic hard work. You can make it happen the other way, outside in, absolutely. But it requires a lot of connections and yes, we're working and working. It's like running this wheel, squirrel wheel. I don't know what it's called in English.
Oh, hamster wheel.
Hamster wheel, yes. They just run around. And instead, just coming back in and learning how to relax and tap into the sensation of what you want to create, tapping into that, not just the thought of it like an affirmation. That doesn't really work. It's more complex than that. Mm-hmm. It has to be connected with the energy of things, which is more emotional and even deeper than that, just the beingness of you. And there's so much power there. It's incredible. And then it feels effortless. It still requires action. It's not just going to happen. You still have to take action. But when you're in alignment with yourself first and foremost, you become in alignment with the world. Mm-hmm. Naturally. If you're in alignment, you're in alignment with all that is. And then things flow. Things show up. Just, I never have to look for a parking space, for instance. It always shows up. Like simple things, but always also bigger things.
Okay.
Whatever needs to come just comes.
So you're talking about being in alignment. So what I'm hearing you say is, if we're being in alignment, we already are wealth. We already are abundant. We already are prosperous and fulfilled. And this is coming up in different places. So let's talk a little bit about that in relation to self-love. So there's a common belief out there, or perceived idea, that you have to go to reconnect with love and work to find self-love, as if it's something that you don't already have. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you can't be missing something that you already have or are. Like the whole "all you need is love" it's a cute song, but you are love, so you can not have it. From a human perspective, the human mind, the persona, let's say Eva, that doesn't make sense. But from me as an energetic being, it makes perfect sense. And what sometimes gets confusing, I personally believe, is that we talk these spiritual concepts, but we don't differentiate from which level we're speaking. So we're talking from a human understanding level, Ava, or are we talking from a higher energetic understanding, call it spirit? It makes all the difference. So from an energetic being, everything is available to us all the time. We're it. We're already it. But for me as Ava, in the story of my life and how I see myself and how I interpret the world, that might not be true at all. Mm-hmm. So when we say reconnect, it's really retraining the personality, the virtual reality, the ego, whatever you want to call it, to understand that I, as a person, as Ava, I might have misunderstood some things. And by reconnecting myself with a deeper truth, that energy becomes available to me. It's always available, but I'm not tapping into it if I'm not even aware that it's there.
Right. So when you say deeper truth, you mean deeper truth of yourself, right?
Say that again?
When you say when you say understanding a deeper truth, you're referring to a deeper truth of ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. A deeper understanding of what we really are, beyond the story of what we think we are. So when we come into this world as newborn babies, there's really just the physical being, the animal, the baby, and spirit, energy. There is no persona yet because the brain isn't developed enough to create that. So life can work through the baby, you, life, energy, can express itself through this physical being, the newborn baby, completely freely. And we've all experienced that with a newborn baby, how present they are and how in the moment, and something is not comfortable, they cry. If something is joyful, they laugh, and it can shift like that. And there's no holding on and there's no story. It's just pure expression. And we're all that. That's it. But then over time, we start learning concepts and the brain gets developed and we start getting self-identification as Ava. When my parents started calling me Ava, in the beginning, that was just a sound, just like you call any dog. I got to understand that when they say Ava, I'm supposed to listen and pay attention. That's all it meant to start with. But over time, I start understanding that, wow, that's me. I am Ava. And once I start believing in that concept, and we all do, there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of being human. Then this personality starts developing, and it's completely individual, and it's completely based on every single event that I have been through in my life, good or bad, that make up my personality. But it's not real. It's a virtual reality that has, unless I give it power, it has no power. I'm giving it all my power, or I used to. I don't any longer, but I used to. And by finding your way back to life, energy, spirit, whatever your belief system calls it, it doesn't matter. That which you were as you came in as a newborn baby, becoming aware of that aspect of you. That aspect is always wealthy. It has no limitations. And it can be the container for the personality as opposed to the other way around. This is like a shift there, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Difficult concepts to talk about, but
right.
You can point to that truth, but it really is something that every individual needs to feel inside. And every teaching throughout centuries have been about pointing to this truth, which is really universal truth, even if it becomes an individual experienced truth.
Right. So the core of who we are has no limitations, which means that the beliefs, the emotions, the thoughts, the decisions that we carry are actually separate from who we truly are. Is that true?
Interesting. I think I used to believe so. I don't necessarily in physical form. They're not.
Mm-mm.
But when you're no longer in physical form, yes.
Right. I think there's power in that idea because it allows you to disconnect from allowing the emotions to control you or allowing your current thought process to control you, because that can shift instantly because
In
it's
my
core of you.
personally, that's like the very first thing that needs to happen. In able to do this particular work, that's the very first thing. So yes, and I agree with you. There needs to be like a split between who you think you are and what you are, your thoughts and your emotions, and something else, the witness, call it that.
Right.
You need to create that separation in order to begin this work. There comes a time where you merge them again, but
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, how does somebody start to reconnect with who they are, with the core of themselves and their inner wisdom? How do they start to like separate from the noise in their head?
it's a very individual journey, and it so depends on the human, but a general thing would be awareness is absolutely the key. So to have a little mini me on your shoulder, just paying attention on a daily basis to who am I, what am I doing, what's happening, what am I saying, what am I feeling, and why. And is this true? Is that really what I want to do? Like really ruthlessly looking at ourselves. Because we live so from outside in, we're so dependent on whatever is around us, and we're constantly, consciously or unconsciously, trying to manipulate circumstances to benefit us because we don't believe that we can do that from inside, which means we have an agenda most of the time, consciously or unconsciously. And becoming aware of that makes a huge difference. Knowing when someone tells me something and I'm reacting, let's say with fear, why am I reacting with fear? Not thinking so much about out there, but looking inside and really do deep self-inquiry. What's going on in me in order to feel fear here and now? And is it valid right now? Is that just something from my past that I'm bringing? A similar situation happened in my past, and now I'm bringing it to this situation unconsciously, most likely. And my whole being remembers what happened way back there and is now saying danger, danger, danger. But I can say, wait a minute, is there danger around here? No, really. And then I can relax. So that self-awareness goes a long, 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 long way.
Mm-hmm.
There's layers and layers and layers and layers of that.
Yes.
But it takes work.
Yes, it does. A lifetime of work. To take self-awareness back to the idea of self-love, I find that it can feel very complicated and heavy to have the thoughts and kind of go through the process on your own of why do I not love myself? Why am I not allowing myself to receive the abundance that I naturally manifest and attract if I'm just in my own clear being without everything attached? And it feels so heavy and complicated and confusing, and people don't know where to start, and it's a mess in the beginning. So
doesn't have to be.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It can be, and the human virtual reality, your personality, is a complex being that now is running its own show, because it's been fed for X amount of years. It has its own agenda, its own purpose. My body has its own purpose. But if I can separate myself, and whether I believe it or not, but just go with the idea that I am not my body, I am not my personality, my thoughts, my emotions, and be the witness to that. And when fear is arising within me, unless there actually is danger, car is about to hit you, you need to move. But unless there is danger, it comes from your past. It's the story you're carrying in your being that's telling you that there's danger. It's all based in the past. It's not relevant right now. So if fear is arising, and if I'm able to stay as the witness, I'm still feeling the fear because it's real. For my physical being, that is real. But I can witness it and holding an embrace of the fear without becoming afraid. The fear doesn't have to take me over, or the anxiety or the jealousy or whatever the emotion, sadness, whatever it is. It doesn't mean that the feeling go away. It's a part of being human, having all those feelings in our physicality. But they don't have to run us. And by being able to stay the witness, I can choose to embrace them with, like I would a child, because that's really what it is. So the witness is the grown-up, and your human being is the child, and the child is having a tantrum. It doesn't mean you have to be going into tantrum. What you do is you pick up the child and you hold it and you talk to it and you love it. For me, that is self-love. It's not feeling lovey-dovey all the time. We don't as human beings. Right. It's being able to embrace whatever is coming up with a more adult way of looking at it and consciously choosing to, okay, I understand this is my past. This is the fearful little girl that remembers something coming up, and I'm going to love her. Even though my whole being is in turmoil and it's really hard to feel that. I might not even be able to feel that because there's turmoil going on. But I can tell myself that's what I'm doing. And over time, that becomes easier and easier and easier.
Mm-hmm. I think another way to say that, one of the mentors talks about how you are not your results. Your self-worth is not tied to the results you have in your business or in your life.
At all.
Yeah, that was really profound to me.
Super big trap. But that's the whole living outside in. And we're creating all of that to feel good about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not true.
So when we're struggling to love ourselves, that can be perceived as a misleading statement or a false belief in a sense, because it's not that, how do I say this? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, when we struggle I used to think that I struggled to love myself. I'll use myself as an example to make this clear. For years, I had self-love issues, and I hated my body, and really tied myself to the results I was getting at school or my business or work or whatever. And it wasn't until I started to recognize the difference between that external situation and my self-being that's always steady and always abundant and always at a high frequency of love, that I started to just be more gentle with myself. So that's what I mean about it being a false statement, because when you let go of the pushing, like you said earlier, and like the work involved to love yourself as if it's another thing on the to-do list, and just surrender and stop trying so damn hard, all of a sudden your power just, for me, I feel it rise really, really quickly. I feel my frequency go super high very fast when I just surrender and allow.
Yeah, that's what came to me as I was listening to you, the whole concept of self-love can become a trap. Like anything can become a trap. The mind is so tricky. Whatever new thing it learns, it puts into the structure of the virtual reality of Ava in my case, and it tries to use it continuing the way it always has in service of the past. So then self-love becomes something that I need to do, and I need to master, and I need proof that I have mastered it. And now there is no self-love in that at all, and never will be.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, being able to let go of that and relax and stop trying so hard, whew, here it is. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating the first time it happened. Like, whoa, I just surrendered and gave up and thought, okay, I'm not going to try this any longer. And all of a sudden it works.
Yeah. I encourage people watching at home to give that a try at least once, and you'll understand what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sometimes it's hard to do on commando because it's the mind trying, and then you're still in that. So it's tricky. This work is tricky. You really have to be vigilant with your own mind, with your own personality, and see, where am I coming from? What is really going on here? It takes courage and ruthlessness with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. So what does it mean to just surrender? For somebody that's listening that maybe is new to this type of conversation, what does that even mean, and how do they do that?
I wish I knew. Oh my gosh.
You're the expert. You have to know.
In a way I do know, in other ways it's, gosh. A simple way is just the way you said it, to stop trying so hard. Surrender would be, if you use it in the way it's often used, is when there's a war or some kind of conflict going on, someone surrenders, and then whoever is the opponent is the winner. And in a way, that's what's going on inside most of us, that we have this battle with ourselves when we're pushing against, and within ourselves and with the world, and being able to just let go of that. I can feel it in my being just saying it, like, whew.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm in this wanting to explain surrender, and there's this energy in me that wants to do that. And just talking about letting go, even letting go of trying to explain that, and then whew, something happens in me where it feels, the tension falls away and my breath changes, and I feel happier and freer and calmer. And so it's letting go of trying so hard. Did that answer your question?
Perfectly. Yeah.
It's a tricky word, because that too can become something to do, and then it's not surrender.
Mm-hmm. You talk sometimes about how recreation of the way we see ourselves is a big step, a big part of the process. So tell us a little bit about what that means, to recreate the way we see ourselves, and why is that important on the journey to reconnect with the love that you already are?
Well, like I talked about before, coming into this world and just being life in a physical body, and there really is no story of who I am. And then over time, the story gets created in the beginning through the help of parents and siblings and school and society. And over time, I do it myself. And the beliefs I hold about myself become like a filter. It's like wearing glasses, colored glasses. And life now has to move through these glasses in my expression into the world. And the world has to move through those glasses as I perceive the world. So everything is seen through the filter of my past. Everything. Everything is seen through the filter of how I see myself and how I see the world. So it's kind of self-evident that if you change how you see yourself and how you see the world, your filters change. You will see the world differently, and you will express yourself differently.
Mm-hmm.
Everything changes because you changed.
Mm-hmm.
How you see yourself, and for most people, how we see ourselves is what they are. Most people believe that they are their personality. I used to believe I am Eva. So if I can change how Eva looks at Eva, it doesn't only change how she looks at Eva, it changes how she looks at the world and how the world looks at her.
Right. I'll give an example from my own life that's very similar to that. So for years, I hated my body. I didn't like to look in mirrors. I would avoid buying clothes until I absolutely had no choice but to go and buy something that I needed. And I presented that to the world. I wouldn't wear bathing suits. I wouldn't go to like a pool party or anything that would like show my body. I showed up as really insecure. I showed up as probably cold to a lot of people just because I was like so protective of hiding my body. So that was how I was expressing myself in the world, but also how I was looking at myself more than anything. So the image that I had of myself in my mind was very ugly and very unattractive and very just off-putting and disgusting. So I was doing people a favor by keeping them away from that because it was of the image that I was carrying of myself. And when I finally started to be more gentle and shift the filters that I was dragging around, and I say dragging because they were heavy. It was exhausting to think that way and to live that way. All of a sudden I started to see myself as a completely different person. Mm-hmm. So the image that I have in my mind right now of what I look like versus what it was, say, even 5 years ago, they look like two completely different people. And the feedback that I get from the world is completely different as a result as well. So now people will give me compliments or say, you're so confident and I like how you show up. And people never said things like that to me when I was carrying the old image of what I looked like. Wow. So I think that's a good example of how self-love can shift, not based on what you're giving other people or based on what you're showing up as in a room, but based on starting with what's going on internally and loving yourself before everything else starts to line up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And really, really good. It makes perfect sense. Perfect. And it's so great you can use that personal example because you're beautiful. And we can do that. Like even if we're stunningly beautiful, we can believe we're ugly, or we can be really, really skinny and believe we're fat, or all kinds of stories. And for that mind that's trapped in that story, it's really hard to shift. So just by starting to look at thoughts, just making thoughts the only thing to deal with, and what am I thinking, and becoming aware of my thoughts, really paying attention to my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And then making an effort, and it is an effort to start with, and it doesn't feel true or right or anything. It's really awkward and weird to shift those thoughts into something more positive and self-loving. And that's still the work that needs to be done. And over time, that becomes natural. Mm-hmm. But you can't change it if you're not aware of your thoughts.
Right. That's a perfect place. So people watching at home that are wondering, how do I start to improve my self-love? That's the perfect place to begin. Start to notice the way you're thinking.
A teacher I had once told me many years ago, he gave me an assignment. He asked me to stand in front of the mirror every day and say, my name is Eva. I'm a parasite and I'm addicted to suffering. I thought that was so stupid. Like, why would I be addicted to suffering? And I'm not a parasite. But I trusted him, so I did it every day. It felt really awkward. I can't say that I believed a word I was saying, but I did it. And somehow that practice cracked an opening in my hard-held story of myself. So all of a sudden I started to realize things. So say, for instance, someone cut me off in traffic and my whole being goes into, oh, which is natural. There's potential danger here. And my body goes into reaction to it, fight or flight, and make sure everything is safe. But the moment the episode, the event is over and nothing happened, my body relaxes. It goes back, the adrenaline goes down, pulse, breathing, everything goes back to normal. This doesn't. This keeps telling the story. Oh my God, that idiot. And now you're calling your friends. And depending on the kind of event, you can speak about the event for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
A day, a week, a month, a year, a lifetime, depending on the intensity of the event. But the event happened back there. It's not true now. And every time you tell that story, your body relives it.
Mm-hmm.
And I became aware of that because of this exercise. Like, oh my God, he's right.
Okay.
Like, oh my God, I am doing it to myself. That's crazy. It was a shock. Like, oh my God, I am creating suffering in myself. Yes, the event happened, life happens. But every time I retell it, I am recreating the suffering.
Mm-hmm. Repunishing.
Yeah. So now I wanted to change that. I couldn't. It was so automatic. An automatic response. I had no power. I had given all my power away to these beliefs. So that took time to just pay attention. And over time, like in the beginning, it was an event happened and it was like a train left the station. And if the event was big enough, it could create a train wreck, the loss of a relationship or a job or something. Because I was reacting as opposed to responding. And over time, by paying attention and really noticing, what am I doing here? Because now I really wanted to change it. Over time, I became aware of when this feeling started to rise in me, the reaction feeling, and I could stop the train faster and sooner and sooner and sooner until it never even left the station.
Mm-hmm.
And once I came to that point, it was another shock, because now I realized I didn't want to stop the train. I had all these stories why I should be reacting. If someone insults me, I can't just let them. I need to stand up for myself. So now I started hearing those thoughts. It's a different level of thinking. The stories of why I should be a certain way. And that was another level to become aware of, until there's a place where instead of reacting, I can be responding, because I am not letting what is unfolding here to just take over. I can make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It takes self-awareness. And self-awareness is a huge part of self-love and self-wealth.
Yes. Thank you. I can't believe how quickly time is going by, but we have to wrap up soon. Flies by, having a good chat. So I hope this is helpful to the people watching at home. I hope there's so many different concepts that you mentioned that can really help us to start to just make those shifts, like you said. Of course, I encourage people to use hypnosis, which can help speed up some of these parts of the process.
So many
years off. Yeah, for sure. But recognizing that without self-love, all of the other stuff that you are looking to achieve and manifest will only come towards you, but you're not actually going to be allowing yourself to receive it. So
if they come towards you at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When they do, it's almost like torture.
Yeah, it all starts here. There's no way around it. It starts with us.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to tell people about the free gift that you're offering?
Yes, I have an offering of having a conversation. Just if you're curious about concepts, want to ask questions, or want to find out if we can do something together. And there's also a meditation.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Everybody check out Eva's website as well. It's really informative and it's a good place to start if you want to start your transformation process and notice your love with yourself.
Yep.
Thank you, Eva, for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're
You
welcome.
beautiful being.
Yes, so are you.
Thank you.
See ya.